Across Europe, timber beams laid in place before the Black Death still support roofs, towers, bridges and barns. These beams endure damp stone walls, centuries of smoke, insect pressure and constant seasonal moisture. Many modern builders struggle to keep wood intact for even a few decades, yet medieval craftsmen routinely produced timber that survived for hundreds of years. This durability was not the result of luck or superior trees alone. It came from a deliberate system of preparation, treatment and design rooted in long observation. Medieval builders understood decay as a biological process that could be controlled, slowed, and in many cases stopped entirely. The methods they used were simple, repeatable, and require no synthetic chemicals. Once understood, they explain why medieval wood often outperforms modern lumber. Medieval builders prevented rot before construction ever began. The first step in medieval wood preservation was harvesting at the correct time. Trees were felled during winter dormancy, when sap levels were lowest. Sap carries sugars that feed fungi and attract insects. By cutting wood when these sugars were minimal, medieval builders reduced the internal fuel that decay organisms depend on. This decision alone extended the life of a beam by decades. After cutting, timber was never rushed into service. Logs and beams were left to season slowly in open air, protected from direct rain but exposed to wind. This gradual drying preserved the internal structure and prevented cracking that would later trap moisture. Modern builders can apply this immediately by cutting wood in the dormant season and allowing it to air dry for months or even years when long-term durability matters. Surface transformation was used instead of surface sealing. You know, medieval craftsmen understood that sealing wood completely was a mistake. Trapped moisture, well, it actually accelerates decay. So instead of relying on heavy sealants, they altered the surface of the wood itself. One of the most effective methods was something called controlled charring. Wood meant for ground contact or exposure to the elements was lightly burned until the outer layer carbonized. This, in turn, created a surface that insects simply could not digest, and fungi really struggled to penetrate. This technique was, in fact, widely used on fence posts, foundation beams, and structural supports. The charred layer would shed water while still allowing the interior of the wood to breathe. For modern application, you would want to lightly burn the surface of posts or beams until they are blackened, then just brush away any loose ash. The main goal here is surface modification, not deep burning. Mineral chemistry, well, it played a hidden but absolutely critical role. Now, medieval builders frequently exposed wood to alkaline environments created by lime and wood ash. Lime wash was, commonly applied to timber frames, especially in barns and outbuildings. Ash-rich water was sometimes used to clean or soak wood as well. These alkaline substances, well, they raised the pH of the wood, creating conditions that were really hostile to fungi and many insects. Fungal decay, interestingly enough, thrives in slightly acidic conditions. By shifting the chemistry of the wood itself, medieval craftsmen made decay biologically difficult, even in damp environments. A modern equivalent, actually, can be achieved by mixing hardwood ash with water, straining the liquid, and brushing it onto unfinished wood. One of the most overlooked medieval techniques involved the interaction between iron and tannin-rich woods, such as oak and chestnut. When iron oxidizes in contact with tannins, it forms iron tannate, a compound that's actually resistant to biological decay. This reaction, you see, darkens the wood, but interestingly enough, it also strengthens it against rot. This is why, even today, medieval oak beams around iron fasteners often remain solid long after the surrounding materials degrade. The iron, contrary to what you might expect, was not a vulnerability. It was actually part of the preservation system. Modern builders, if they wish, can replicate this effect by pairing untreated iron with tannin-rich wood, or by applying iron solutions made from iron scraps soaked in vinegar. Design ensured water never stayed long enough to cause damage. Medieval wood lasted because, well, buildings were designed to dry quickly. Beams were raised on stone plinths rather than being buried in soil. Roofs were steep, and eaves extended far beyond the walls. End grain was protected by joinery instead of being left exposed, and above all, airflow was always prioritized. Why did modern construction abandon what actually worked, you might wonder? Well, industrial building, you see, started to prioritize speed and uniformity over longevity. Chemical treatments, they replaced real understanding. Timber became something disposable rather than something meant for generations. Medieval methods, they require patience and skill, not, factory shortcuts. And as a result, many modern structures fail silently within just a few decades, while those medieval ones, they still endure. The techniques, well, they weren't forgotten because they failed. No, they were abandoned simply because they couldn't be mass-produced. Now, why does this knowledge matter today? For homesteaders, restorers and survival-minded builders, medieval wood preservation offers honestly proven solutions that work without modern supply chains. These methods, they're not just romanticized history. They're tested systems, backed by centuries of evidence. If this guide added real value to your understanding of historical building knowledge, go ahead and subscribe to The Beginning for more deep, practical history that, well, still works today. Share this with anyone who builds, restores, or values craftsmanship meant to last for generations. History only disappears when it stops being used.